guessing I got the bad ending. I'm guessing I got the bad ending. Because, there's no conclusion or anything there, you know? Alright, whatever. Whatever. Where's my thoughts? Be over here. Alrighty, Chrono Cross conquered, question mark. You had to do the colors in a certain order? The game kept telling and showing you. Blah. I don't know. I saw the room. I saw the room with the colors, but the boss kept interrupting my colors. So, you know, like, what was I gonna do? What was I gonna do? Maybe I'll go back and do it after this. Kids at the end talked about saving Shala with the song alive. I got that part. I figured I needed to get all the colors up there and then cast Chrono Cross, but it just wasn't. It wasn't. I tried a couple of times, you know, like what was I supposed to do? The boss just kept. I couldn't get the right combination up there. You know, the boss was casting whatchamacallit, so I felt like I had no way of knowing how I was supposed to, what order the colors were supposed to get there. And it was just taking too long. The boss fight had no music in it, which makes that boss fight not very good. You know, it was a very boring boss fight. But maybe we'll go back to it and you guys can tell me the colors and we'll get the good ending and see if it's even worth it. But yeah, Chrono Cross has been conquered, and this one was a strange game for me. For the most part, I gravitate towards gameplay when it comes to the games that I'm playing. And story is, you know, generally like something that I look forward to, but I don't really pay much mind to it because typically in JRPGs and RPGs, stories are mediocre at best. So, you know, I wasn't expecting anything crazy out of the story and anything like that. And I didn't get any, well, scratch that. I got something freaking insane out of the story because so much of it just felt like I was reading a book in a language that I had never seen before. And I was trying to piece together what parts made sense to me and trying to construct a story that like works. And I had a very difficult time doing that. I think I mentioned earlier, the story spends a long time talking about time travel, and it kind of like never goes away from that. And so I felt like it spent too long explaining the rules and then reinforcing the rules and what's involved with those rules, rather than exploring dynamics with characters and I guess the world itself. The whole dragons betraying us could have been so much more. It could have been a big, impactful moment, but it just felt like, okay, I guess we're being betrayed right now, because in the grand scheme of things, all the explanations about time in of itself was so significant in comparison to the rest of the narrative. But with that being said, my overall thoughts is I actually do like this game. Story confusion aside, I had a lot of fun playing this game. I thought the mechanics of the game were some of the most interesting that I've done in a JRPG. It does things that feel reminiscent of other games, but are also very much self-contained in of itself. Like maybe improving or originating with those ideas. So it was fairly cool. I liked those elements. For the story, was it satisfying? Well, no. Seems like we got the bad ending there. Just straight to credits. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I honestly didn't feel any satisfaction. Even if they do wrap up the story, if I manage to get the good ending after this, even if they do wrap up the story and it, in a nice little bow and it looks nice and it sounds nice, it probably doesn't make the story satisfying because just everything that's spoken about in this game, it feels like it just went over my head, I guess. I'm not capable of putting all the blocks together, or the blocks that I were given just don't fit. Did it feel complete? Well, I mean, I guess arguably I have to say no, right? I guess I have to say no. I didn't really get anything complete about that. That sucks though. If that's all that you get for an ending, in your memory, the credits were longer with a good ending. They probably have like scenes, of riding off into the sunset and all the other stuff. Actually, chat, can you tell me, actually, now that we've gotten this ending, you can just confirm it for me. Getting the Chrono Cross is an optional thing, right? You don't have to get the Chrono Cross to beat the game, because that's the impression that I got, especially with Master Mune being the craziness that it was to get that. How was the pacing? I'm actually going to use my personal experience here to describe the pacing of this game, because I actually think the pacing for my playthrough was okay until the green dragon came up. I don't remember anyone ever talking about a green dragon. I didn't even know a green dragon existed until I think I spoke to the sky dragon at the end. And I had no idea how to get the green dragon. Nobody told me anything about a green dragon, where the green dragon might be. There's no green dragon isle or anything like that. There's Gaia's navel, which is a place I've never been, but for all I know, that's just where the final boss is at, need a flying machine to get there. So I spent like 6 hours trying to track down the green dragon, and it could have been longer than that. And I think that was a huge detriment to my enjoyment of this game. Thankfully, it was only 6 hours, but at the same time, it was 6 freaking hours. It was crazy. Outside of that, I think the pacing was pretty good. I don't think there was many issues with trying to find where to go, or that the story was getting off track a little bit. I felt like it kept you on the right path for the most part, until I guess towards the end there, where it opens up with all the dragons and you have to find them all. By the way, there are multiple endings, like 7, and you need the Chrono Cross for the good ending. Well, I get that I need the Chrono Cross for the good ending, but I'm trying to find out if the Chrono Cross spell/item is optional Like, you can get to that final boss and beat the game without even having the Chrono Cross. Because I mean, you could presumably, if the Chrono Cross is required, you could potentially get to the final boss and just not having realized that it was a spell that you can equip and use, or you could just never use it. You know, I don't know. Too bad. You were hoping you would like it as much as you did, but maybe this is just not for you. Thanks for playing anyway. Well, I do like the game. I thought I made that fairly clear. Like, I enjoyed the game a lot. It's just I don't understand the story. The story doesn't make any coherent sense to me in the grand scheme of things. Like, I get the larger aspects of it, but they're trying to use Lavos to pull in like multiple timelines, and it just starts building on top of that, and none of it really makes a whole lot of sense. Like, how did Lavos pull things through time, and why is the frozen flame like a piece of Lavos, and why it was which ending from Chrono Trigger is the canon ending that leads up to this? Because if we beat Lavos, then like all of this stuff should not be really that stuff, you know? Like, I don't know. But yeah. Also, you don't know, but based on you being able to finish the game like this, you'd figure you don't need the Chrono Cross to finish the game. You never even use the Chrono Cross, just use the time egg to finish quick. You have to in order to get the other characters. I believe this is made for more than one go, so you see all the angles. Can't be done just once, unfortunately. I think Crayson has a very good explanation of why he feels that is not a good thing for games, and I kind of share his sentiment to a large degree. I think a story or a game should tell its story within its first playthrough, and then in a second playthrough you can add more on top of it, or you can flesh out other areas or something like that. It's very difficult to run into a situation where you play a game and you get like one building block of how you're supposed to interpret the story, and then you play it a second time, and that second playthrough is what completes the game. It should be a complete experience for the first playthrough, at least in my eyes. But yeah, thoughts on the story. About 20 hours into the story, and I admit I'm very unclear on what's happening. It's starting to shape up to be a plot dump at the end, it seems. I kind of feel like this remained somewhat true, but in the sense of it just got more complicated as the game went on, and it just became harder for me to understand. It's a little funny how Surge is the Chrono Trigger, but there's no explanation of what that is. Wasn't it an item in the original game? Yeah, I don't think they mention what the Chrono Trigger is, or what its significance is, or even how to utilize the Chrono Trigger, or anything like that. For some reason, Surge is the Chrono Trigger because of his contact with the Frozen Flame and Fate. And what does that mean? Link swapping with Surge was actually pretty crazy, pretty monumental from a games standpoint, and pretty cool. This was actually extremely interesting for me. I feel like there are so few games, maybe even hardly any games to no games out there, where you play as a protagonist and a good guy, and you're going to save the world question mark. That really wasn't our goal at the beginning. It was more finding links because Kid was in a party or something. But it was really, really cool to finally get that confrontation with Lynx. And then he turns the tables on you. And he takes your form. And then it's a problem of, well, crap. He's Surge, I'm Lynx. What's going to happen? Unfortunately, they don't leverage this fact as well as I would have liked. It would have been very, very interesting if we utilized our Lynx form to gain advantages elsewhere, whereas Surge was utilizing his form to ruin our reputation and gain advantages with his form, access the fate stuff, all that other good stuff. I felt really disappointed in the Lynx section of the game because it was just constantly like, oh, Lynx, what are you doing here? And then Radius saying, oh, that's not Lynx, that's Surge. Like, bruh, this person could have given me an item because they were terrified of me. Or I could have gained access to the Viper Manor because I'm Lynx, Like, let me get some advantages out of that. Something. I'm also going to throw in there, I mentioned this earlier, but Wazuki being Lynx is one of the silliest things that I think this game could have come up with. There's no build up to that. There's no climax and fall. There's just this NPC tells you, oh yeah, by the way, you killed your dad. There could have been so much more to that. They could have started this game off when we were hurt on the ocean and we're traveling with our dad and Miguel, and we reach this place and we're walking through it and we're seeing scenes of how our relationship is. And then, maybe that's like the first 5 hours of the game is like we're just going through this mysterious city with Miguel and our dad, and we're fighting our way, trying to figure out how to save Surge. And then at the end, something happens. We fight something, and like an attack or something like that is coming out of the darkness going towards Surge, and then Wazuki flies in front of it and it fades to black, and then all of a sudden Surge washes up on the shore or something like that. Like, just give us something that we can work with, that allows us to care about Wazuki, and then give us some more about Lynx too. I feel like Lynx gets hardly any character development in this game whatsoever. We could have gotten hints of Lynx being a little bit sympathetic towards Surge, even though they're kind of enemies and Kid is kind of driving the show here. Honestly, this is probably silent protagonist syndrome. If we're gonna be keeping it 100 here, like, if Surge wasn't a silent protagonist, we might have gotten these character relationships that drive games like this forward, which is something that I don't know. Yeah, I do talk about this later, so I'll get to that a little bit later. And then speaking of Miguel, everything that happened with Miguel is very confusing. How and why are even remotely related to anything that is going on? So we actually did get an explanation of this in that fate, I guess, intervened or something like that. And Miguel got important because fate or something. It doesn't make much sense to me, but I guess they tried explaining it, so there's that. I already read that one. It's made more for diehards like you who really enjoy the lore. Sure, sure. Tried to Google the answer to your question. Instead, found this game has 12 endings. Well, you can only get 2 on the first playthrough. Okay. Have to remember when these games were made. Did not have a lot out at once, so they tried to give you your money's worth. I mean, you say that, but Chrono Trigger, you can understand that game in one playthrough. There's games older than this that give you a complete understanding of their games in one playthrough. So I don't think that's a fair justification for how they approach the story of this game. Unlike games today that finish all too quickly, in your opinion, I think all right. I think it's an art form to have a game start and end in a short amount of time and have that experience be good, because you get situations like with the Trails games, for example, where they just go on forever and you think they're never going to end, and they just keep talking about stuff. They keep building up stuff. They keep resolving little threads, but adding more threads. And so you never feel like it's going to end. And it's hundreds of hours of stuff to go through. But in a game where you start off and you finish the game 10 hours later and you got a complete story and the narrative and the characters, and you understand everything that was going on, that in of itself to me is an art form, because it's easy, at least from my point of view, it's easy to over embellish and keep going with something. It's easy to build off something and never stop, but it's very difficult to create a condensed, complete narrative in such a short period of time and have it all make sense and have it all feel complete. But you know, that's me. That's me. Gameplay mechanics and design. What gameplay elements stand out? Leveling up is weird. There doesn't seem to be experience. You just randomly get a stat up here or there from random encounters, and after you beat certain monsters, you get bigger stat ups. This was a very, very, very weird type of game for me, because most games out there have some sort of leveling system, and so you kind of understand the progression that you're taking over the course of the game. But this game is very different. It has some sort of like HP is your gauge here. It doesn't necessarily incentivize grinding, although there is incentive to grind. It's just that the gains that you get from it are really, really small in terms of like 1 HP, you know? But it was a very, very unique system, and I haven't experienced very many games that approach leveling in this way, and I'm glad that I experienced it. I don't think I got a negative experience from this either. I actually think it was really cool to just experience another leveling system that's not the traditional you gain a level and you gain some stats. Combat is cool. Reminds me of Xenogears a little bit. I think I've been touching on this quite a bit throughout my playthrough, but the combat in this game feels fresh to me. I like that there's the stamina gauge that you essentially have up to 7 attacks, and you can then reduce the amount of attacks you have, but do more damage, but you have less accuracy to do those. And then they layer that system, which is already an interesting system in of itself, to a magic system where you have levels of magic, and the more hits that you are applying to your enemy, the more level points, I guess, you get in order to cast higher level spells. It's super interesting. I think this game. I wanna say this a very specific way. I think this game could be modernized in terms of its combat system to be something uh, like phenomenal. Because the way I look at it is the stamina system is a cool system, but you can do so much with just the stamina system. Um, you can have items that reduce your stamina usage. You can have items that um, approach stamina in a different way. Maybe spell casting is your stamina instead of the other way around. You can have characters with less stamina, but they do more damage or they do more things with their stamina. So you can do so many cool things, or experiment at least with so many cool ideas with the stamina system. Um, and I thought that was really cool. I also like how they approached the magic system in this game. It reminds me a little bit of D&D magic, or Vancian magic a little bit, where you have like spell slots and you cast from your spell slots, and once you cast them, they're gone, but you get them back in the next battle. That was very cool. I do think that I I feel like as the game went on, spells started doing less damage to certain enemies. I will also even throw it out there that I think the balancing of certain bosses was insane. I think the Black Dragon was much harder than that final boss. I think that white like golem guy that I was fighting at the end there was much more difficult than the final boss and the Black Dragon. I think Darius or Dario or whatever his name is was harder than any boss in this entire game. It's kind of insane where these areas of the game converge and whatnot stuff. Yeah. You want to immerse yourself in a game and not be in a hurry to finish and on to the next one. Just your style. That's fair. That's fair. Fair. Just an FYI, your max HP is 850 at 99 stars, and the game calculates how you get there in one playthrough. So it is a set amount to give, I guess, at level up by the game. Okay, interesting. Interesting. I find it obnoxious that there is a turn order of sorts. There is a loud noise outside, and I don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, I find it obnoxious that there's a turn order of sorts that is progressed by every action my team takes. It's very unenjoyable to be in the middle of a combo string and then have an enemy take their turn. It also resets the combo hit percentages, making it even more annoying. Super obnoxious to have that happen. I'm even going to throw it in there that the hit percentages were really annoying. I think... Okay, sound is gone. And it's back, and it's gone. And it's back. Hold on a second. It's still really loud. Anyways, I think it's really obnoxious to go through with that, and 100% the percentages that you have in combat there don't reflect anything that's happening in that combat, and it's very obnoxious to have 99% and miss with 99%. Just feels like you're getting XCOM'd, I really wish this game kept with a more traditional turn-based style system where I have my 7 stamina. I can utilize my 7 stamina however I want. Once my turn is done, it goes to the next person. It also just kind of interrupted the flow of combat for me to be in the middle of a combat string and then have it stop, and there's that waiting period of waiting for the next person to go, and then they just interrupt me and then I have to go back to it. It doesn't make much sense to me from a design standpoint why that would be like that. If there was some sort of like tracker that shows, like enemies popping up after 3 stamina is used or something like that, that would negate all of my criticisms of it, because then I would know and be able to plan around it. Dungeons. I don't really have much to say about the dungeons. There's the Shadow Forest into Viper Manor or whatever. Like, I'm so sick of that dungeon. I never want to go in that dungeon ever again. But other than that, I think all the dungeons were fairly short and sweet. I don't feel like I got screwed over or there was any practical dungeon design issues off the top of my head. Cardinal Sins, removing a key party member without sufficient replacement. Kid, when she gets the Hydra Venom. Honestly, Kid for like the entire freaking game. There's no other character like Kid in this game, as far as I can tell. No fire people with wiping or whatnot. Yeah. Also, backup party earns less experience, maybe. So I'm not 100% sure on this one. It seems like you don't get experience if you finish a fight and die, and that's like one of those star fights. But from what I could tell, backup party members were getting their stats increased. So maybe it's just tied to how many stars you have. I'm not 100% sure on that one, so that one's just kind of like a question mark. And then the silent protagonist. This one's a huge detractor for the game for me. And it's because this might be the worst utilization of a silent protagonist I've ever experienced. Generally, the supporting cast is there to give you compelling characters and information, but there is little to none of that in Chrono Cross. Not only is the main character a lifeless shell, but the party members are too. So, let's... I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this. Let's take Chrono Trigger, for example. You have Frog, who is in your party, and he has this story about, not being who he is. And you have Marley, who's a princess, and you have Luca, who's an inventor. And each of these characters have their own takes on what's going on in the story and how the story is progressing in front of them. And they approach these story angles from their own unique perspectives. But in this game, I don't feel like characters do that. They don't necessarily elaborate or discuss amongst each other about how to proceed. It's instead like we go to random NPCs and they tell us information on like where to go next, and we kind of just like give a quip or something like that. There's no like campfire scenes where we're just like, you know what? How was your day doing today? Like, I know you fought this monster and, he like clawed you in the face or something like that, but it looks like it's healing pretty nicely. There's none of that banter. And I know that there's probably a ton of characters in this game. And it makes sense that they wouldn't be able to accommodate essentially every single character having their own personality and commenting on every aspect of the story. But when you do a silent protagonist, you kind of have to do that, because otherwise you just get a story where it's just moving along because other people are saying, like, this is what you do. Silent Protagonist just never gets to say anything, never gets to have an opinion on the matter. And when your other characters don't have opinions on the matter, it's like, well, what are we doing? What's the purpose here? Why are we doing what we're doing? For miscellaneous sound and music, I was okay. I think the music was all right for me. I'm not too drawn to the majority of the tracks. I think the battle theme was okay. I think a lot of the miscellaneous music was, all right. I really like the Burning Orphanage song from when we went to go rescue Kid. I thought that song was really good. There was the Viper Manor track. I like that one. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Turks from Final Fantasy VII. But other than that, I don't think the music for me was like stand out or anything like that. It was a soundtrack for the game that did its job, and I didn't find many tracks, I don't think, that I just couldn't stand listening to. Although I'm starting to think that there was maybe one. I do think that they goofed in the final battle, though. There should have been some sort of musical track in there. It wasn't good. Graphics, I think the graphics were pretty nice. I do think there was a little bit of an issue with some attacks taking like 30 seconds to get done and some attacks taking 5 seconds to get done. And that was like across a wide range of spells and things like that. But I liked the character models. I liked a lot of the characters. As like they were moving around in the world. I did have a lot of problems with, I guess, like graphical fidelity of what is interactable, what is not interactable, and like where I could go versus where I couldn't go. I think there could have been a little bit of more emphasis on letting me know, like, okay, I can't do anything with this pathway or something like that. Some of the paths were just difficult to decipher. Like, for example, at the end there was a staircase going down. And that one, like, the perspective just made it really weird. Replay value. Does the game offer additional story in a second playthrough to warrant playing the game again? So chat says maybe, but from my point of view, I don't think so. I struggle to think what can be expanded on in this game to make the story of the game a different experience than what I necessarily got. I don't feel like getting more characters would influence the story, but I could be wrong. Chat said I'm interpreting chat as they're saying maybe, so take that for what you will. If the developer is watching, I think what I can definitely say about this game is I like the mechanical aspect of it a lot. I liked the gameplay of it a lot. I had a great time playing this game. I definitely struggled to follow along with the story and kind of keep up to date with all the aspects of the story, but it was still it's still a fun, great game in my eyes, because gameplay comes first for me. If your gameplay is good, your story can be Chrono Cross's story, and I will still have a good time. So if you were to create I guess, another experience in the Chrono Trigger universe or mythos or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily say I want Chrono Trigger 2. I would just want another game that excels with its gameplay, like Chrono Trigger, like Chrono Cross, but has a story that's easier to follow along and actually has characters that are memorable and um, uh, characters that we can like and kind of see them grow along the way. But yeah, again, my overall thoughts. I like the game a lot. I had a ton of fun of the game, and I had fun. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on Chrono Cross. Yeah.